and we're recording. So today is Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. It's 5:40 p.m. and this is the regular meeting of the Parks, Art, and Culture Committee. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda and the approval of draft minutes from our last meeting, which was May 13th, 2020. Councillor Jang, if you're amenable, if you'd be willing to make the motion to approve the agenda and approval of the draft minutes.
So moved. I make a motion to approve the agenda and the draft meeting minutes from our last meeting. Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much, Councillor Jang. In the absence of Councillor Shannon, who hopefully will be with us shortly, I'll second that. Attorney Blackwood, do you see any issue with us continuing on as long as two of us are here?
Fine. No
okay,
issue.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have an agenda and we have an approval of the draft minutes. The next item on the agenda is the public forum. As we were saying before we came on and began recording, we have a number of people that have signed up to speak in the public forum. The agenda allows for a public forum now, as well as a wrap-up public forum at the end of the meeting, just before we adjourn. If of the people that have signed up, if there's anyone who wishes to speak after and not before, when we enable your microphone, if you could just let us know, and then we'll keep you in the queue for the end of the meeting. Holly, you have a list of those people that have requested to speak at public forum. I assume you have some sort of order. There's a number of people.
Yep, it looks like we have 5 folks who are signed up to speak at public forum, and I put them in order by who contacted me. And Robert Kiernan is first. Robert, I'm enabling your microphone now.
Okay, if it works for you, I'm going to prefer to speak after you go through the most of the meeting. I'll speak later.
Okay.
Okay.
Next on that list is Mary Lacey. Mary Lacey, I'm allowing you to talk now.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. My name is Mary Lacey. I'm a muralist based here in Burlington. I'm here today to show my support for Gina Carrera. I believe in the constant evolution of public art. I'm here today to support Gina, not necessarily because she painted this wall first, but because I want to honor the lineage of muralists that came before me and so many others in this town. I began painting murals here about 6 years ago. My local murals here include the Hummingbird downtown and the silos outside of Dealer. When I first started, I had a sense of urgency and busyness that did not make much time to learn about those who had been painting murals here long before me. I see this as an opportunity to collectively do that and to lift Gina up into the spotlight and thank her for her lifetime of labor. I am almost 30 years old, which means that when she first painted that jungle mural, I was learning to walk. I grew up in Jericho, and when my family came to Burlington, we parked in the parking garage and walked down that alley. I remember the mural vividly. Interestingly, my brother, who did not go on to become a muralist, does not. So I can only imagine the subconscious effect that mural had on me at the time. Let's honor her contribution in the lineage of muralists that got us to this moment by hiring her to paint a new mural in Leahy Way. I see this as having a lot of potential in bringing many artists together, as I know myself and many others will be there with a paintbrush in hand to help Gina. I don't understand why we need to resist this vision. Let's embrace it.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next individual to speak is Estefania Puerta, and I'm going to allow you to talk now. There you go. You should be enabled.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, I am also a local artist that lives in Burlington, Vermont, and a taxpayer who is calling in support to have Gina Carrera be able to paint the mural on Leahy Way. It feels extremely disappointing and discouraging to see that this has become an issue when it's just so evidently clear that this is a wonderful solution that has been presented to you all to remedy the sort of harm that this initial Everybody Loves a Parade mural has caused. So I just want to honor that this is a lot. I don't know. I'm just like, thank you, Gina, for speaking up and for being brave and for showing up. And I know that it must feel really intense, and just know that you have a group of artists in Burlington and in Vermont who are here to support you, and that we're happy to be here to help you. So I just hope that you all take this into consideration, and that this doesn't get dragged into some legal battle, but that you can all just honor the fact that this is something that local artists and residents in Burlington would love to see Gina be able to do. Thank you.
Right.
Thank
Great.
Okay, the next person on the list for public forum is Lydia Kern. Lydia, I've unmuted you now, and you should be able to speak.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for being here and listening today. I just, as a fellow artist in Burlington, I just want to echo what Mary and Estee have voiced. I don't know Gina personally, but many artists that I know have been very encouraged by her work and who she is and the influence she's had in our community. And to me, it feels very clear when a community member, and especially someone who identifies as a woman of color, comes to you and says, I have a plan to make an inclusive mural that tells a different story about our community, and then is then supported by other artists and other community members with whom her work has brought joy to. That just, it makes a lot of sense, and I don't know what is a more timely decision than to listen to the artists and the people today. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and our last person on for public forum, I did have another individual just reach out to me to ask to speak afterwards, but our last before person is Norman Fisher, and I'm allowing you to talk right now. Norman, you need to unmute yourself.
Okay, my daughter just took care of that, but unfortunately my dog is barking, so you have to listen to that too. You've heard me a number of times. I'm a free speech guy, and I don't want the mural moved. Just to remind you, in terms of, I'll just make 2 points. One is about free speech. You don't want to chill other people. And moving this mural is going to chill people. You don't want to discriminate against viewpoints. It's going to discriminate against viewpoints. These are points based on the First Amendment, my knowledge of the First Amendment. And the third point on the First Amendment is that the First Amendment trumps various claims for diversity. That's in the law, okay? The other point I wanted to make, and again, I made this point last time I was here, but just to repeat it, I don't believe that the debate in Burlington is as intellectually rigorous as the one in San Francisco and LA. San Francisco and LA, a lot of free speech people came out, and I believe there are a lot in Burlington, but they haven't really had their voice heard. I think that there are a lot of people who don't want the mural moved and want to follow the First Amendment. So I'll stop now because a lot of people, you know, you've got to move on, but just to repeat, that's me, okay? That's my view. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any others?
It looks like Estefania has raised her hand again. Would you like me to allow her to talk?
Sure, I'm not sure.
Okay. Estefania.
Sorry,
unmuted.
yeah, I just had a quick, I forgot to add a question that I wanted to add before, which was, I know a lot of people actually did want to speak, but 5 p.m. on a Wednesday was an extremely hard time for a lot of folks. So I'm just wondering, is there a point person that people can email to express support? Like what would be a good place to contact someone to, just how host emails for support for Gina? Thank you.
That we'd be happy to hear from anyone who would like to have anything entered into the public record, or if you just simply want to email the 3 members of the Parks, Art, and Culture Committee, and we can get you that information. If you want to just post an email address, we'll get you all that information. And thank you. It appears as though Mr. Dana has joined us, and just want to acknowledge that we see you, and we'll come to you a little bit later after Gina does her presentation. Just wanted you to know that we see you. So is there anyone else, Holly?
Sorry about that. That's my list. If anybody else would like to speak, who's in the attendees list, if you could please raise your hand so that I can see that you're interested in speaking. We'll give you a couple seconds to do that. It does not look like there's anybody else who wishes to speak.
Okay. So we'll close the public forum, and again, if there's anyone who wishes to speak at the end, and I believe there is at least one, and if there are others, no problem, you can let us know later in the meeting. We'll go into the agenda for the meeting, and at this point, I'm just simply going to share my screen so that for those people who aren't aware of where we are in this with the mural, with the resolution, just have a copy of this for you so that you can take a look if you'd like. This resolution was passed by the City Council in May 18th, just a few months ago. And it's very short. This is the entire resolution, but wanted to just go into where we are and what we're doing. If you just go down to the resolved clauses, the council voted 11-1 to remove the mural, and I believe there might be a couple of amendments to this, but this is basically the gist of it. Would be to remove the mural before August 29th of 2022, which is what we had agreed to a couple of years ago. We had 3 directives in the resolution. One was to request that the city attorney notify the artist of Everyone Loves a Parade, Pierre Hardy, in order to satisfy the required 90-day notice period. The second was for the City Council and the Department of Public Works to work together, and by August 31 of this year, in other words, in just a few weeks, and this was changed slightly, to remove or cover the mural to a suitable site in the city for storage until a recommended plan could be developed. And then at the end was to come forward with that plan for relocation or disposition of the mural no later than September 30th of 2020. So with that, and I know it's hard to oftentimes follow along with the shared screen, so I'm going to get rid of that. The first item of business is a communication from the city attorney who's with us this evening, Attorney Blackwood. There may be other questions from the committee, but one of the first questions was to do with the first or the second resolve clause in the resolution, which was to notify the artist of Everyone Loves a Parade of the required in keeping with the agreement that included a 90-day notice period. So I was hoping that you could let us know when that letter was sent, if there have been any communications with Mr. Hardy since the letter, or if in fact there are other, perhaps if Doreen or if Cara, if you have been in touch with the artist, or if there's been any communication and where we stand with that.
Sure. The letter was sent to Mr. Hardy on May 27th, I believe. We received confirmation back from him that he had received it. He had a brief communication with BCA Director Kraft. Since then, he indicated he would get back in touch with us in mid-July or so. We did not hear from him. Director Kraft has attempted to contact him. We haven't heard from him further. We're expecting that we probably are not going to hear from him. So the 90 days will run and the city will move forward.
Is that also your feeling, Director Kraft?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that would be the first. It appears as though we shouldn't have any problem continuing with the resolution, given the fact that both of you are fairly confident that we are not going to hear any further from Mr. Hardy. Okay.
Correct.
Great. All right. Thank you. Were there any, Councilor Shannon or Councilor Jang, do you have any questions at this point? I mean, obviously Attorney Blackwood will be here, but do you have any questions for her at this point? Councilor Jang?
Thank you, Chair Paul. Yes, and my first question for Aline is, I think we also passed a resolution that had the similar language for the city to open a line of communication and to let Pierre Hardy know about all these decisions that are being made. So I was just wondering if the May 27 letter to the artist Pierre Hardy was the first letter that you have sent to him.
Was that the first one ever?
Yes.
From my office, I think that's probably what we did. Our office hasn't been the one being in contact with him.
Sorry?
Yeah, our office isn't the one that's been being in contact with him. I know before Cara came, the marketplace had been in contact with him, and then Director Kraft has been in contact with him. In addition, you may recall, Councilor Jang, that there was some damage to the ELAP mural that BCA became involved in repairing, and they have had a lot of communication with another artist who has been working with Mr. Hardy, and that's someone that they've had a fair amount of contact with regarding him and his thoughts about this.
Okay. So I think the resolution that I'm talking about policy, and I think we did request for the city attorney to send a letter to Pierre Hardy, and this was even way before these past two resolutions. You remember that, right?
Yeah,
and
sorry, Joy just sent me a text reminding me that she did send a letter pursuant to that prior resolution that included all the resolutions to date. That included all that information. I apologize.
Thank you. Yeah, that's all I needed to know.
You're okay, Councilor Jang? Okay. Councilor Shannon? You're okay? Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is a communication presentation from city staff, and this would be, I believe, Director Kraft who will be speaking with a proposed temporary step for the mural in order to address the August 31 date in the resolution. Don't know if you have a presentation or if you just wish to address us, but the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the city staff and the collaboration between the many departments in the city that have been engaged in resolving this in the best way possible. We spent the last number of months exploring those requests from City Council, whether it be to cover or take it down, to do our best to find out what the cost would be, what the impact on this private property might be from the result of our decision, et cetera. So there's been a lot of work. I thank Cara, who came into this role, as many of you know, as a new director who does not have the history with this mural. And she's been amazing to work with. And I thank all of those who have, on my staff, spent time. Sarah Katz is here. And do you think you could promote her into the meeting in case there are questions? Thank you. Let me say that we explored all these possibilities as you request. And I think there was probably some community confusion at that time because we did look at what it would look like if it was covered and what were the options there and how much would that cost and would that buy some time to think about what comes next. And I think at the end, after much deliberation and exploration of speaking to professionals, we felt the best option, and of course it is the decision of the city, but a recommendation from us that it be taken down. And we did, Sarah Katz worked to reach out to professionals in the community to be able to remove this mural respectfully, as our job as the Department of Arts for the city is to respect and honor all the artists that have been engaged in this. That includes Pierre and Mary Angelina, who was his assistant and a very thoughtful artist in the community, and Gina Carrera. So we got a bid from Paul List. He is someone who I think is known to many departments within the city. He runs a historic restoration firm. He worked with us when we took the damaged mural down many months ago. And he has presented a bid, and I think he understands this mural because he took pieces down for us during that restoration period. He understands it probably better than many. And Gina, I even think you said to me that you've worked with him over time and respect his work. He's presented a bid of $12,500. That is to take down the 60 panels that equaled 120 feet in Leahy Way, to move them to the airport, which is where we have secured a safe place for storage so that this work can continue to be taken care of and out of elements. And he cannot give a bid for the cost of the repair, even though he understands what the repair consists of, until all of the panels are down. And he has a chance to really inspect exactly what has taken place underneath, because otherwise it's guesswork from the few places that he saw. We do know that when those panels come down, they have screws that go into a substrata that is a wood substrata that the panels were attached to. And many of them have a glue that also holds those screws in place. So exactly what the repair will be like depends on how hard it is to remove them and to bring this back to return the building to its original state. So that $12,500, I just want to repeat that $12,500 is just the first phase. That's just the removal and the storage. And Jean at the airport has generously offered to store this at no cost to the city. Any questions so far? So, yes, Ali. Councillor Jang, sorry, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No problem. Thank you. Yeah. So I wanted to understand where the initial $35,000 or $40,000 to remove the mural came from then, if we're now hearing this 20,000, and please allow me to finish, right? If we're now hearing this 12,500, and was just also wondering if you used an RFP, not only contacting police, that guy you're talking about, but have you looked around elsewhere, have bids basically, I wanted to know, and where that initial $30,000 came from to remove the mural.
Okay, I will answer part of that, and then I'm going to ask Sarah, who has done all of this research, to speak to you. So the first $30,000 was the concept of that this would be taken down and put up in another place. It was not just removal. It was removal and restore. So that it was a two-part process. Now we have really a three-part process because we don't have a full bid for the first phase. We only have the takedown, not the repair. And we have decided, I believe you have decided, that this is just going to be stored. It's not going to be moved somewhere else and mounted in a new place. That was the larger estimate of what the cost would be those three steps. And Sarah, I think, can talk to you about the research that she did on getting bids.
I was in touch with one other historic restoration company and who was willing to provide a bid if they were able to pull a crew together by the end of August. And so far I haven't heard anything back from them. It's a fairly hard time to get a hold of contractors in this COVID era. They're very, very busy. So I am not sure if I will hear back from him. So far, the only response I've received back is from List Restoration.
Paul? Councilor Paul?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Chang.
Thank you. I mean, I think the information that we're hearing here are so packed with so many informations, so many language, and I think it will be important for us to go back to the resolution that the council passed lastly about this mural. I think where we're going to put the mural is another discussion, right? But for right now, what we all agreed upon is to remove it or cover it and store it in a suitable place until we know where it's gonna go, right? So it sounds also, from what I'm hearing, there has not been any RFP in request of proposal for companies that you might not even think of to come and take it down. It seems it's just research, and then a decision was made that we are going to move forward with Polist, I believe. That's the name. Yeah. And that's what I'm calling for is basically for us to take it step by step. And it seems the removal is going to cost us $12,500. The restoration is something else. But I wanted to know if it's possible for your team to just basically bring us all the details in writing instead of just these presentations. And was just wondering if that's possible, and also when we should be able to get that communication from BCA leadership.
Eileen, I think you might jump in here because I was asked to just figure out if there was any way possible to get this down by the date that was required, which, you know, we reached out to historic preservation all over the state. I talked with the state historic preservation folks. I mean, it is a very difficult time to find anybody who can work within this time frame. I wasn't asked, and if I'm wrong in this, to figure out the full next stages of this, because I thought there were still decisions to be made. And Ali, that's like what we're, Councilor Zhang, that's what we're reporting tonight, is we have that one clear bid of $12,500. The next stage of the bid, he or anyone else would not provide the city until that mural is down. No one is going to guesstimate professionally what the cost of repair is until they see what the repair looks like.
Councilor Jang, we don't always do an RFP for every public project that we do, and we have some guidelines on when we have to do them and don't have to do them. And we have to do them for things where the cost is going to be much larger than this. But in situations like this, we often go and look at known experts in the field, because it is a limited field, and that is the removal and transport of artworks. There are a limited number of folks who have the knowledge and the wherewithal to do that. So this is fairly consistent with city policy in terms of doing this, and in addition, because of the time frame. So I think what the idea here is that they were able to get a quotation of $12,500 for that first phase of taking the mural down and getting it stored in a safe place. The next phase will be to get an estimate on the removal of the strapping and the repair of the wall with Ms. Carrera's mural on it, and we are anticipating putting something together and going to the council for a request to use to be able to have some money from the contingency fund. We're going to ask, what our plan is to ask for $25,000 from the contingency fund to cover these two phases. So it is a little less than the 30 to 40 that was originally estimated. We're looking at about 25,000. We're not 100% certain that will cover the repair that has to happen, but that's our that's what the plan that we're presenting to you today is, that we've been trying to work on pulling together to figure that out. And then I think we're also prepared to talk about what happens next, because one of the concerns that has been raised by a number of folks is not having nothing up on the wall for an extended period of time, but making sure that things are taken care of. And we wanted to chat a little bit about that as well.
Okay. Thank you. And I think some more information just been provided here. And that's what I'm trying to understand. I think removal and also repatching the wall is together. And it seems we're talking only about removal, but the other part of repatching the wall, making it just the screws that we include, do we have a cost? And if yes, how much is that? And those two, when are we going to get it in writing? That this is so far, that was my initial question.
Yeah, and I think what we're saying is that we are planning to put together a memo to go to the council to request approval on the next meeting, at the next meeting, for use up to 25,000 of the contingency fund to do that. 12,500 of which is a solid estimate, and the other 12.5 is not yet a solid estimate until they take it down, and we aren't going to know. So we will get the removal done by the August 31 deadline. We won't get all the repair done by then, but we're hoping that we can get it done very quickly if we can get the estimate and we're in the ballpark of what the estimate will be. If we're not in the ballpark, if it's going to cost a lot more than that, obviously we'll have to go back to council at the next meeting.
Okay, wonderful. That's all I needed to know. So the next meeting, then we will receive a memo about the removal and the patching cost estimate. That's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jang. We are operating under a fairly tight timeline because we do need the time, the 90 days to elapse. And between the 90 days and the 31st of August is a very short period of time. But the removal of the mural will be done. The mural itself, perhaps not the backing, but the mural will be removed by the 31st of August. And you also have consulted with Paul to make sure that in fact that can be done, that they are available to do that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who I was looking at. Yes. Okay. Councilor Shannon, do you have any questions? Okay. Mr. Dana, welcome. we'll get to you, and we'll get to you shortly. And you'll have an opportunity to speak after Gina. Is there anything you wanted to add, Director Kraft, or either one of you?
I think at this point, you know, I wanted to be sure that I answered what was part of the resolution. I think as in terms of sort of next steps, et cetera, we'll take that up next, but I do want to keep that clean.
Okay, all right, because there were 3 parts to the resolution. The first was the notification to Mr. Hardy, which we've spoken to. The second is removing the mural and meeting the August 31 date. And then the remainder of that is what will happen between August 31st and September 30th of the Parks, Art, and Culture Committee working in collaboration with with departments for a recommendation. And I think that might be also part of what Gina will be speaking to as well. So if you're okay and you feel like, if you're okay right now, Director Kraft will go to, yes. Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Carrera, welcome. So nice to have you with us. And we're looking forward to hearing from you about your mural and anything else you'd like to share with us about this.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me. I just want to clarify one thing. I've heard this once in a while. There is an existing mural underneath the ELAP. When the ELAP is removed, it's not a blank wall underneath. There seems to be, for some people, like Counselor, is it Blackwood? There's an existing piece that's vibrant and loved by the community. It's not like you're going to remove, even with the strapping across it, it's still, nobody's going to tag that. I doubt anyone's going to tag that if that's what the concern is. And it's almost like people are saying, oh, when we remove it, then what are we going to do? What's going to be there? It's just going to be, it's almost like they're saying it's going to be blank, but it's not. I mean, my piece is under there. And you've heard people in the community respond, artists and just your average person that's lived in the neighborhood or in the North End, or people that are on Church Street regularly, have all said they love that piece. It's there. So I almost see it as a win-win. Like, you don't have to worry about a blank wall. You already have a perfectly good piece underneath there. It just needs to be repaired, and then it can you know, sleep for the winter. And then, you know, once a proper plan for a multicultural, inclusive community mural goes in over it, you know, it will have done its duty, which is protecting Mr. Dana's wall from fall through winter and spring until the new piece gets put on there. So I see that as a win-win. And I just wanted to clarify on that. And I'm also unclear whether I am actually part of the repair, or are you thinking that it's a separate piece when I go in and repair the damage that's been done to my mural? Do you consider that a separate, yet another step, a separate piece, or would that be included with the repair? And by repair, I'm meaning all the holes that are in there and whatever gets torn off the mural. It's going to be really difficult to watch that, but I just want some type of guidance as to where I fit into that piece. Does anybody have any insight on that particular part?
Attorney Blackwood?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're going to be talking about once the mural is down and there's a discussion about what happens next. with getting the strapping off and the repair. So it'll be whose role is what and what's the cost.
Okay. All right, that's helpful. Well, I guess what I want to talk about is that step. I think it's really important that once the strapping is removed and the holes have been filled, that I come on board to repair, restore. And I want to address the fact that there has to be some kind of reparation here, because I feel very slighted and damaged by the whole experience, if I have to be very frank with everybody. And I do feel that it would be an honorable thing to do to honor me by letting me be the one that repairs my own mural. That the next step is to repair the mural that's there now. Let it be the sentinel for the wall until the next piece comes. And what everybody's, it's funny because I originally wanted to refresh my mural years ago, and as ELAP was becoming, you know, was being born with Ron Redmond. And it was a multicultural, inclusive mural. And I just find it ironic that here I am years later, you know, waving the banner again. And I think, considering the climate that we're in, with racism and bias and just the general oppression that many of us of color are feeling, and not just many of us in general, right? There's both sides to everything. There's supports and there's negations on both sides. But I think we can all agree that this is very strange times, and that people's feelings and their responses to things are much more intense than we're used to in our day-to-day. And I honestly think you'll feel a lot less pressure from this whole project once it's removed and the other mural is refreshed. I think we can all take a breather and just recoup and redesign. And as you can see, I have a lot of support from the local artist community, and I welcome that. My plan is to, a little background on me is that I run with a pretty powerful PACC. You know, we just got an award from the AUCD in Washington, D.C. at the Conference for Our Racial Diversity. We just finished a film called I Am Vermont, talking about how different people coming from different backgrounds, they're Vermont also. And it's really beautiful piece that's coming out very soon. So part of my job is family faculty at Vermont Lend. I actually bridge trainees from American culture with new American families with children with disabilities. So I'm very immersed in a multicultural way. What can I say? This is what I eat, sleep, and drink. The fact that I'm also an artist, to me, just seals the deal. And that mural that's up there is mine. It just makes sense to me on a lot of levels that, you know, I can do the job. It's pretty crystal clear to most people that know me and people that don't know me. I'm amazed at how many people have come and sent me texts and emails, and it's just astounding and beautiful and touching. I'm very touched by this. But they're also saying, you know, we trust you. We trust you to do this project. And I know I can do this. I know that if I had any doubts, I would have been silent this whole entire time. I never would have stepped up or done anything, but I'm the person that should be doing this next phase after. And because I am completely immersed in the different communities that are our new communities, and I'm also have been here since '81. So I like to think of myself as a transplanted Vermonter in many ways. And I'm sensitive. I listen to what people have to say and their experiences, and I really think that I can come up with an incredibly profound mural. It's going to take me some time to put my sketches together. I mean, my original idea before all this happened in the very beginning years ago was having different families from different countries, including Vermont. And in the background, it would show like what their house might look like, with their clothing, the food that they're eating, their gardens, their pets, their clothes. And then in the foreground, I wanted to have children from each family, but I wanted it to be at a level where little children that are walking down the street, that it would be at their eye level. And I wanted them all to be playing indigenous games together. So you're going to have all different kids in the foreground playing all kinds of unusual and different games. And perhaps there would be on the part where the stone is, the trompe-l'oeil stone is painted, there might be descriptions of how to play some of these games at home. And they would be simple ones, right? Like marbles, that's an oldie. But a way that children can interact with it and see themselves in a positive way by representing where they come from and sharing. The whole idea is that all these people and all these families would all be sharing their lifestyles and their culture. And I really think that I grew up in New York City, and I was obviously immersed in so many cultures. We went to other people's houses for all their different holidays and food, and I was exposed to this incredible diversity. And I really believe that part of the problem with racism is that people are ignorant of each other's origins, or misinformed, have misrepresentation. And I was thinking it would be a beautiful thing to be able to walk past that mural and take from it, like, oh, I had no idea that, you know, they grew this. We have this in our garden too. I wonder if that's where it originally came from. Or my dog looks just like their dog. Like, trying to find the commonalities in our differences and celebrating the diversity. So that was my original intent for the mural. And I still feel pretty strongly about it, but honestly, I want to be able to talk more about it with different groups of people in our community and get input, and then start the sketching process and the mural process. And then I would really welcome, again, like I did with the first mural, having children be able to help paint, having little, obviously with COVID, it's going to have to be one-on-one, separated with, it's going to be a little trickier, but maybe by then we won't have that issue. But my point is that it's a beautiful thing when people are that attached, that when you hear people say, I walked down the street and I loved this mural and I carried it with me, and now I'm a muralist and I feel like somehow this started me on my path. Even if I don't get to paint this mural, I can walk away from that, and I'm really touched by the outpour. Honestly, I mean, what I did was, it was a gift to the community. It was given out of love, my love for my community and Burlington and the downtown area. It was not for money, obviously. And I think people feel that. I think they get where I come from, and they understand my genuine love for people in general, all walks of life and all ages. I used to say I painted the mural from 0 to 100. That they're like, what age range were you looking for? And I said 0 to 100. or more if you can get out, if you can go past 100. And I really want to be able to continue that that thought process in the next mural. And obviously I'm wanting to be the person that's doing the multicultural mural. I'm absolutely I think insisting's the wrong word, but it's a natural step of progression that I repair my own mural. And then it's also, to me, and very clearly to the community, it's a natural progression for me to paint the multicultural inclusive mural next year in 2021. And I guess I just want to keep it open to questions now because, I'm not ready to do sketches yet. I want to hear what that actually entails, what my part in this is going to be. I'd like to hear more from you. But we all know that murals enhance buildings, and most murals don't get tagged. And it's important that that wall, and I want to be clear because that wall does not face Church Street. It's not part of the Church Street Marketplace. Shouldn't have any kind of hold on that wall because it's not part of Church Street technically, and it is a private wall. And I do own the paint on that wall. That skin is me. And so anything that goes on that skin, I want to be involved in where it goes and what gets done to that skin. It's really special to me. That was my first mural, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be my last. The next one would be my last one, probably my last large-scale mural. So this is incredibly important to me and significant. And I have a great reputation. You all know me. The founders know me. I've worked for most of those gentlemen. I've worked with many, many people on Church Street. And so I'm coming to you with everybody knowing that I believe that I'm the right choice for this. And I guess that's all I have to say. If there's any questions or anybody has any kind of things they'd like to add, I'd welcome it.
Thank you. Thanks, Gina. Thank you. Thanks. It's so clear that this is something you're speaking from the heart about, and very meaningful. Before I go to counselors for questions, Mr. Dana, you've been patiently waiting, and I know that you had asked if you could speak. If now is a good time for you, perhaps now I think would be a good time to speak following Gina. Your microphone is muted, just so you know, and then the floor is yours.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. We've talked about it. My brother and I basically run this business, and we're in the business of owning buildings like this. Our family's been in this business for 4 generations. We're concerned primarily that when the mural is taken down, that to a large extent, we want to make sure the wall is taken care of properly and not cause damage that could cause structural problems. And it appears as though there's already been a decision made to make this a multicultural and all-inclusive mural to replace what's there, which is fine with us. I mean, we want something that's non-political and non-controversial. And, as long as it's done, as I'm sure it will be tastefully and not turn into the same sort of controversy 7 or 8 years from now, you know, we're not too concerned about it. We just want to maintain the structural stability of the building, but also keeping in mind that we have a tenant there now who's not, may or may not be there some years from now, and that the appearance of makes a big difference, and it's more than what may be politically correct. The artistic appearance and how the building looks has an effect on prospective tenants going down the road. I got a feeling you're going to have a really hard time getting that strapping off the wall. I don't know what, there's going to be hundreds of holes, because I think the panels are screwed to this wood strapping, which in itself is bolted into the wall and epoxied. But that's somebody else's problem, not mine. The real question I have is really what's going to happen in the short term. Because take the mural down, you know, the strapping's got to come off the wall. I can't imagine you leaving that for this process is going to take 6 months to a year before anything happens. So it's a concern to us that something be done with it, you know, relatively promptly, so it's not, doesn't look like a half destroyed building. Definitely so it doesn't look like across the street. Anyway, that's all we really, I came to listen mostly for informational purposes, so we would know what's going on, because we're not there every day. But that's pretty much all I have to say.
Thank you, and thank you so much for being here. I believe that the issue about the structural integrity of the building is certainly a valid point. Either for Doreen or Sarah, when you spoke with Paul Lift, did you discuss that with them? And if so, what was the?
Yeah, we did discuss that with him, and he, based on what his experience, as he put it, not empirical data, but his experience, he didn't think that the damage to the wall was structural. It was really going to be mostly about labor and repairing the holes and grinding down the glue that you referenced that is part of what's there now. So he felt that as long as it was, the strapping was taken off and the repairs were done relatively quickly, there was no major freezes or rains and freezes that happened one after another, that he didn't think that there would be any issues with the integrity of the building.
Right, and I didn't mean to imply that I'm worried about the building falling down. We built the building, so we know how it's constructed. It's a steel frame structure, and the side wall is I think it's made out of cement blocks.
Yeah.
And it holds itself up. It doesn't hold up the roof or the you know the frame of the building.
Yeah.
But concrete blocks, I don't know if all of the concrete blocks have cavities. I don't know if they're all filled with cement or not. I don't remember. It was 1976.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we built that building in 32 days, ready
Wow.
for a tenant to move into. But there are vibration issues when they're doing work, because there's stuff on the other side of the wall, like sheetrock and strapping there, and you know, if any damage, if there's too much vibration, we're going to have an earful from Banana Republic, to say the least. And we're going to hear about it if there's a lot of, you know, if this goes on for protracted period of time with a lot of noise, because it's going to echo into their space. So but the building's not going to fall down, but you start pulling bolts out. I don't know if those bolts are in a quarter of an inch deep or they go halfway through that cement block wall. I didn't see it constructed. But how they get them out will make a difference. And it could, when you pull, if you pull it out, it can take off a bigger piece of the cement block than just the, whatever it is, quarter inch, half inch bolt.
Yeah, it's important to have the right professionals in there.
Very much.
Thank you. You're welcome to ask if you have any other questions or okay. Councillor Shannon, Councillor Jang, do you have any questions of either of Gina or Mr. Dana or the staff or Doreen or Sarah or Cara?
I'm good. This has been really informative, and I appreciate everybody coming here. It's nice to meet Mr. Dana and Ms. Carrera. And I look forward to continuing the discussion, but this has been helpful.
Thanks. Thank you. Councillor Jang?
I have several points and several questions and comments, but I will try to keep them very short and concise. And I think the first one is about what's next if we remove the mural and we repatch them. It's nice, it's beautiful, the wall is there and it's not falling down to Banana Republic. I think that is first. And Gina Carrera, thank you also for being here and for your moving comments. But I think it would be important to maybe highlight that we are not at that phase where we commission a new mural yet, at least from my own perspective. I think we are here to talk about removing the mural, making the wall beautiful. And you just stated that there is a mural underneath and it's your mural. And this is a question for both you and Mr. Dana. Have you talked, you two, around the idea of just giving more life to your mural that's currently there? Have you talked? And I don't know if the city can get involved, but was just wondering if you guys talked about the idea, if the Everyone Love the Parade is removed, can you come back with paints and just give more life to the existing mural that's currently there? I just wanted to ask if to you both.
I easily can do that. Yeah. I mean, that would be part of it would have what I would call a little facelift. There's room above to add to it. Now, originally when I did the mural, I did it in 65 hours. I know everybody's talking about how long is this going to take and time and exposure and stuff. That was from scratch. And at the time, I didn't have a lift or any of the proper equipment to go higher up. That's why the band is so blue. But now I can easily do stuff like that. So yes, there's room for not just to freshen it, but to add to it and make it more vibrant. Easily done. Mr. Dana and I talked mostly about how beautiful Colorado is and the mural scene there and what that's like and the importance of murals. And he didn't say, hey, Gina, what do you want to do with so what's next? Like, what do we do? We didn't actually talk about things like that. We just discussed, basically we discussed what was going on, how important it was to make sure that that wall is beautiful and not left in a way that it's targeted for vandalism. That was important to both of us. So that's essentially what we talked about. But to answer your question, I can work very quickly. That's never been a problem for me. And since it's my baby, it's easy for me to highlight and change and enliven it. It's just an extension of me, right? So I'd just be adding to it. So yes, that's easily done. And I could provide sketches for something like that if I know that's the direction we're going.
So again, I think the way that I frame my question is not maybe even adding, but just the current, what's there. And I don't even know the legalities around it. Can you even do it? And maybe Eileen can tell us if there is an agreement between the building owner and the artist who owned that mural. I don't know if, and again, this is only me. I'm just asking questions and not the council.
If your question is, can Ms. Carrera and the owner decide that they want to, what they want to do in terms of the mural, I think they can. What I would generally say is the city has a legal easement to put to do fixtures on that side. And so probably we would want to say that we would want to sign off in some way on that. But yeah, I mean, I think that the idea of allowing Ms. Carrera and Mr. Dana to work on a plan for what the mural would look like, and then just bring it to the city for essentially our agreement that we're not going to exercise our easement to do anything to disrupt that in the near term, something, you know, to that effect would be fine.
Thank you. And Mr. Dana, do you want to add anything?
No, right. I mean, we're perfectly happy to work with Gina and have her restore the mural. Frankly, we liked it. we didn't. It wasn't our choice to put something in front of it. There seemed to be we got a lot of pressure from a lot of people to go along with an easement and this mural that's there now and everything else. And we try to stay out of city politics as much as possible. You know, frankly, if Gina wants to restore the mural that's there and possibly add to it, we'd have no problem with it. And frankly, if the city wants to pay to restore the wall to what it looked like before the ELAP went up, and possibly, you know, extend it upwards. I don't know what it would look like. Gina would have to come up with some drawings, but if the city wants to pay for that, frankly, we'd be perfectly happy if the city wanted to then work with us to just eliminate the easement entirely.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is maybe for the chair, Councilor Paul, and maybe to just remind us if any, or at least the resolution that we're talking about currently has any language about commissioning a new mural to the alleyway, which is completely different from repatching or reviving Gina's mural. Do we have any component language like that?
In the resolution that we passed in May, Councilor Jen? No, it just simply talks about, you know, a proposal after the mural has been removed by August 31, and then a recommendation of a path forward that would be done in collaboration with this committee and other departments that would come to the council by the 30th of September.
All right, no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Since the others have asked their questions, I'd like to ask a couple myself. And one of them I think is more a legal question for Attorney Blackwood, or Joy, also, whomever would like to speak to it. So what we're talking about first is we're talking about the taking down the ELAP mural. Then we're talking about taking the things that are on the wall that are affixed to that mural, and having those taken down. And then must be a process of either filling in holes, or I'm not sure exactly how that would work, but there's something where it must be then, presumably when you take these things off, you're gonna take a piece of the wall with it. And then something has to be done to make it a flat surface. Is that fairly in non-artist, non-builder language. Is that fairly what we're talking about?
Sarah Katz can probably give you she had a more detailed conversation with Paul Litz about his expectations about what would probably have to happen for kind of the structural piece. But I think part of what the next phase will be is to really, once the mural's off, have Ms. Carrera, Mr. Dana, if he wants to be looking at, what needs to get restored, what does it look like, and what are the processes to make that happen, and coming up with estimates for what that will cost time and money-wise.
Okay.
Yes, your assessment sounded accurate, more or less accurate to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so once the holes are repaired, and presumably there's going to be some like white something or other that's going to fill in those spots, which will then mean that they need to be repaired and repainted. The city if approved, the city council will take up the proposal on August 24th to allot $25,000 out of the contingency fund to do the 12,500, which we already know, and then a contingency on this of an amount of double of another 12,500 to repair the wall to not to its former state, because of course there's a mural on it, but at least to repair it to the point where it's a relatively flat surface. If the city is paying for that, because it is repair work, and the mural that is under the Everyone Loves a Parade mural was there initially before the ELAP mural, and it needs to be restored, isn't that a cost that can be borne by the city?
Probably, yeah. I think that's what we're looking at as the next step, is figuring all of that out. Yeah.
Okay, so in other words, I think one of the things that is important to me, and perhaps important to a lot of people, is that while I am greatly appreciative of the fact that Ms. Carrera went and did this as a sign and a symbol of the love that she has for the city, it wasn't a sign or a symbol of her love for the city to see the mural overtaken by another mural. And it would seem as though the repair work should not just simply the materials that it would cost to repair this, but that certainly part of perhaps the restorative justice process should be, and maybe not even, but just simply good business, that the city should be paying Ms. Carrera for her time. And it would seem to me that there's only one person who should be doing that work, and that is the artist who put it on the wall. Is that a fair, is that something?
That's absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. I mean, if this mural had been a Burlington City Arts done through an RFP process, and we had a contract, whenever a mural is repaired, whenever a piece of artwork, there's destruction, the artist is the one who repairs their work, and they are paid to restore the work. So yes, we would stand 100% behind that, no question. Just like we're paying construction, historic restoration for their professional work, we pay artists for their professional work. Yes, absolutely.
All right, and is that, again, I'm not sure, sort of what Councillor Jang had said, is the repair, when you say remove and then repair, is that really one and the same in the resolution? Okay, so that's all one part, is removing it, repairing the wall, and part of repairing the wall is repairing the mural that is there.
Yes, assuming that is what everybody decides is the right things. And so, and it's sounding like that's where what everybody's thinking is that's the right thing to do. So
Okay.
yes, that I think, in other words, I think removal involves both, you know, physically taking the panels down, but then taking care of making sure what is underneath is what it was before the mural was put up there. The ELAP mural was put up there.
You know, I know that it's not part of the part of our agenda. So forgive me, I think I'm sort of departing a little bit from the agenda. I'm curious to know on the part of both of the other committee members if what we have, and I'm not sure exactly how to do this, but what we have discussed, would that be something that when this comes to the council on the 24th of August, it would be, I think it would be ideal if there was some way that as a committee we could somehow make show our support for this proposal. And I realize it's not something we have in writing right now, so we would sort of be doing it in concept. And if both of you tell me that that is a little bit difficult to do, I'll understand. But I think it would be great for the rest of the council if we could somehow do something along those lines, so that it would be an indication, having gone through this meeting, which we've been so fortunate to have so many people who are intimately involved with this mural. Would that be something that either one of you might be able to entertain?
You're asking us to support the direction that we've heard from everybody tonight generally, is that?
Yes.
For me, yeah, definitely. I'm actually really heartened by everything that I've heard tonight. This has been a really difficult issue, and it feels like we're, I think finally, I hope reaching a place that where we can have broad consensus in the community.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Attorney Blackwood.
Yeah, I just was going to say, I guess what our proposal is that we draft a resolution that we circulate to you all that says, that kind of lays this out where we are, and that asks for council approval of the use of the contingency fund and essentially of this plan. So that's kind of the mechanism I was thinking of how you might do it, if you're amenable.
That sounds a lot more direct than what I just said before. So yes, it would be to me. Do the are others okay with that approach?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, and all of these questions that I've been asking is basically to not look into this issue just around the two murals that are there. There is more to it. What's more to it is the way we commission public arts as we move forward. And I think collectively, we did change the way we commission. And I think BCA has done a great job to redo how they commission public art. To me, on a temporary basis, I definitely support this approach. But I think moving forward, this should not be between Dana and Mr. Mayor, but I think it is going to be reparation. To me means the city of Burlington, especially BCA, will come up with a proposal about the new mural in the alleyway. And I think for that, it won't be only, I mean, Gina Carrera can play a huge role, but also all the local artists. It's a collective work of so many great people under the commission of Doreen Kraft and her team. But on a temporary basis, I support this. And I think any resolution also that is going to come forward need to have a timeline which the artist will need to accept to just say, I am going to redo this work. I'm going to add it into it, but maybe for 3 years, I'm giving the city the authority to maybe take it down. Because I think the arm is we need to move away for public art to include as many people as possible. Personally, that's my vision about the issue and how we solve it and how we all feel good together. But I definitely support on a temporary basis. Gina Carrera came back, but we need to put also a time frame to get that done. Because what I'm talking about is not only that wall for Dana, but it is the whole alleyway. How do we make it public art, including even the ground where people walk on? You know, we put Black Lives Matter. Why can't we can even put so many different things like the gay, lesbian, LGBTQ. We can put their flag, you know, the rainbow flag on the whole alleyway. How do we make it more vibrant and more welcoming and inclusive for everyone? And we have also the input of all the local artists that live in Burlington, Chittenden County, and Vermont. But I definitely support the temporary basis for Gina to do this work, and but we need to put a time frame to it. That's where I am.
Thank you, Councilor Chang. So is that something Attorney Blackwood, that you feel that you can do in the next week or so that we can get that onto the agenda for the 24th?
Right. I think what we were thinking about for the 24th was getting through the sort of the removal and the restoration pieces.
Yes.
And not as the temporary thing, and that you would then meet again in September and talk about the, you know, how does a mural happen? Is that what you're saying, Councilor Jang?
I mean, yes. No, I mean, I know the layer. I think what you're saying in terms of for the 24, we just need the cost estimate to getting it down, be informed by the whole city council. The cost estimate in maybe, you know, making the wall presentable, beautiful. And if you want, add how much Gina Carrera will need in terms of painting and her time to redo her mural. You know, just the cost estimate and stuff. And I think definitely we need to come back. I mean, we need to come back and just talk about how it's gonna look like for Gina Carrera to redo her mural on a temporary basis. But the other layer, I think it's too early to talk about it right now. But those two definitely remove, repair, Gina repair her mural and all of that, how much it does it meet the $25,000? Can we do it all in $25,000, including Gina repatching her mural?
I agree, Councilor Jang. I don't know that $25,000 is adequate. I mean, it sounds to me like taking the panels off is a lot easier than repairing the wall. So if taking the panels down is $12,500, it seems as though, and again, I'm no expert, but it seems as though the other part of this is going to be a fairly significant expense. It would probably be best not to go back to the council twice. But if we need to, then we do. But I'm, you know, I would agree that it seems like that's not a lot for what we're talking about, plus the time and the materials.
Yeah, and I think I asked a question. Sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think what I said lastly is to ask a question. With those $25,000, I am pretty sure we can take $12,500 to remove. Nobody knows how much it will be to repair just the wall. We don't know. And also, this is a question. With those $25,000, can we also find the painting, pay the wall, pay for Gina to redo her mural? That's a question that I'm asking. But
right.
That's not saying that I want to see that happen within 25. But I think for that, to make that determination, I mean, we need to circle back as a team to figure that out. But right now, let's just think about removing and repatching and making the mural, the wall better, stronger. That's it. And now maybe with Gina, we can come back to say how much it's gonna cost to repaint your mural and maybe add to it on a temporary basis, and for how long. I think that needs a discussion that's deeper among us with Gina.
Thank you, Councillor Jang. I'm not, go ahead, Director Kraft.
So just to sort of time frame things a bit, I think as soon as it's down, Paul List will be able to estimate the work and the time that it's going to take. And does he have the openness in his schedule to do that? Gina will have the ability to see what's under there, the damage, what the correction is, etc. I think we'll know this fairly quickly. So I think we can come back to council. I think that what you're trying to do of avoid going back twice may not work. I'm sorry to say. I mean, unless council is willing to say up to 50, and we hope to be able to do it for 25, but I don't know how you do it with no estimates. I do understand the importance of doing this as quick as possible. We have fall season coming. You've got to do this in good weather. We have to move this quickly, but I think there's probably another city council meeting if required. I mean, Eileen, am I wrong here? Is there another way to do this in one step?
Best.
Okay.
I think that's best.
Okay, so in other words, if that was done in 2 steps, I mean, I think the one thing that I'm concerned about is obviously, of course, taking it down, repairing the wall, but going into the winter and to do this in an expeditious way would just simply be allowing Ms. Carrera the time to repair. I mean, none of us want the wall to look unfinished. We all want it to look nice. And we have the artist here to be able to do that. So I don't know if that's part of the resolution that we pass on the 24th. I personally would prefer that it be that all those aspects of the repair be included in the resolution, and we move forward from there. Does the committee have any other questions for any staff? Ms. Carrera, Mr. Dana? Yes, Councillor Jang.
Yes, this is not a question, but also just a comment for, especially for Gina. I mean, coming here to this meeting today, I thought that you would be talking about your rights. You'll be talking about the communication you had with the council, but I think you came today with a very constructive and solution-oriented angle. And I just wanted to say that I like that I appreciate that from you, right? And also for you also to know that there are so many people that supported you, and I attended one event where you were there, you spoke with the news and all of that. And I think you also you have not been also just waiting for the city. It seems you contacted Mr. Dana. I mean, all the things that you've been doing about this, and also the solution-oriented approach you came to us today, I think I appreciate that. And thank you. It just speaks to your character. It just speaks to your understanding, and it speaks also to your love of this community. I definitely wanted to say that, and to say also thank you to Dana for being here, and also appreciated the communication you sent to the city. Thank you all. And there is nothing we can't do when we come together as a strong team. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jang. I was very fortunate just simply in setting up this meeting to have a number of conversations by email with Ms. Carrera, and could not agree with you more, Councillor Jang. There is a certainly an aura of collaboration and wanting to move forward. And I'm grateful for that. And I think everyone is as well. I think that's what we all want. There are a few people that had asked if they could speak at the end of the meeting. And I don't know how many that is, Holly. I know that there is someone, one of the attendees, Emma Levy, who has her hand raised. I don't know if how many others are in the queue, but I'm gonna enable her microphone just so that we can find out what her a question or comment is. Emma, I have enabled your microphone if you'd like to speak.
Hi, thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Sorry, I don't know if I was supposed to take my hand down, but I was just calling in a little bit later after the public forum and just wanted to be another voice in support of Gina and her being able to restore the mural that I think a lot of us were bummed to see covered up in the first place. I'm a born and raised Vermonter who got to see that all through my childhood. So I just, and as a local artist as well, wanted to say that I think that at the very least, she should be given the ability to bring it back to light for a little while until we do something else with that wall. But I also really hope that the council and the community consider letting her be the one to do so when we do choose to put something else on the wall. I think it's very clear after hearing her speak that she would be a more than perfect choice for the artist to do so. I think she already knows the wall and she clearly knows the community. So I just wanted to call in and be another voice and also say thank you to Gina for bringing such beauty and imagination into an otherwise probably pretty uninspiring alleyway. So thank you for letting me speak and have a great night.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. There's also in the Q&A, Holly, do you have Corinne Yance also on your list?
Yes, I do. The first person to speak would be Robert Kiernan, as he was the first person listed in the original public forum. And then I have Herb Sinkinson, Corinne Yance, and Tim, I'm going to butcher your last name. So Hagany, I hope. So I will enable Robert Kiernan, and you should be able to talk now.
Hi, this is Bob Kieran. There's a lot of thoughts on my mind, but based on what I've heard from everyone, I want to thank everyone for paying attention to this issue. If any of you have read the written statement that I sent to the committee, I acknowledge the fact that Gina was not acknowledged during the process of creating ELAP. And I felt bad about that, and I feel that the attention brought to her now is important. I also support, which I must say is usually unusual for me, everything that Councilor Jiang has said. But I will summarize my thoughts against any particular point of view, and I've listened to everyone's point of view, not just at the committee, but everyone I've talked to for the last 2 years in the city, on both sides of the issue. What I see as an issue now is what has been an issue for quite some time, and that is that there has never been comprehensive planning as to what to do about this issue. The critics of the mural have never brought forth any proposal for a new so-called inclusive mural. And I'm not against Gina's work, but at this point we're basically, or you basically, a few people are choosing artwork to go in a public place. When the mural that's there now, regardless of whether you like it or hate it, was commissioned back in 2009, 2010, 2011, there were over a dozen submittals to the marketplace. There were more than 10 people on a committee to choose the artist who who was going to do the final work. And then, of course, they chose Pierre Hardy. It was a lengthy process. The one common thread in all of this controversy issue has been that there needs to be more public input. Well, we're now going forward with a plan that really basically includes very little public input. It includes Chairman Paul's input, it includes Ali Jing's input, it includes Councilor Shannon's input, the building's owner input, and the potential artist input, and not anyone else. But more important than that is, I feel that the system, at the present approach, I'm glad to see where you've gotten, and I said I agree with Mr. Dieng, but it's backwards. You still don't really have a plan. The plan now is, let's tear the mural down, see what's underneath it, and then figure out what we're going to do next. Now, there are engineering and artistic considerations about a company not being able to provide a quote, a budget for making the repairs to Mr. Dana's building after the mural is down. That's a valid point. But I will close as quickly as I can by saying, I moved into downtown Burlington. I still live a block and a half away from the mural. I saw what that wall looked like the day that the ELAP mural panels were begun to be installed. I saw the damage they had already done to Gina's mural. Then I saw recently a video clip of the wall exposed again when the panels were taken down to go to repair a while ago. And I can tell you, in my opinion, I'm not an expert, but I have a lot of experience in this area, that the path that you're heading on now means that this is going to be delayed. This issue has not been paid enough attention to, technically speaking, for a long time, almost since 2.5 years ago when the whole issue came up. Doreen Kraft has worked hard, BCA has worked hard, other departments have been involved. But Dieng's point about what are we going to do in the future, what is the ultimate mural going to be, all needs to be factored in. I'm not asking for delays here, I'm just saying that there should be a plan now. Yes, it involves money, but it also involves not dealing with the delays that have come up over the past. And there's evidence of it. I've watched almost all the city council meetings, and I've attended several of this committee's meetings, that you cannot tell me that focusing on taking the panels down by a deadline set by the city council is going to be productive, and that it's going to then release the wall to make a quick assessment of what work needs to be done, because in my opinion, a lot of work needs to be done, and then budget that amount, and then get a company willing to put the effort into doing it within the constrictions of weather, of the time allowed, then have Gina Carrera come in and do her work, and then shut the whole thing down for the winter. Particularly at a time when the marketplace does not need another intrusion. So I'm going to end it there. I'm just going on the basis of my experience viewing that wall uncovered, covered, partially uncovered, covered again over all these years. I've lived here now in downtown Burlington for 16 years. So
thank you.
I'll just close by saying there's nothing wrong with having a cohesive plan to move forward before you rush to the ideological decision to get the ELAP mural down and out of the way.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Kiernan. Who else do we have in the queue?
Next to speak is Herb Sigkinson. Herb, I'm enabling your mic now. You should be able to talk now. Herb, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
There you go. You're all set.
Okay. Thank you very much. You know, as I was sitting here listening to everyone, it's clear to me that Gina Carrera, based on what she said, was not consulted very well. in the whole beginning of this process to put up the ELAP mural. And I would hazard a guess that she felt some hurt and still feels some hurt now. And I understand that, but the one thing I want to say is that I got to know Pierre Hardy a little bit when he was here before he put up the mural. And during the time he was working on the mural, I even visited him at the warehouse where he was doing his work, which, by the way, he only had a little bit of running water in the place. He didn't have a bathroom. He had to go out and use a portalet in the middle of winter. And that was the kind of building that he had to do his work in out in Essex Junction, which I thought was really unfortunate. And I used it myself when I was there visiting him because I stayed for quite a while and even helped him paint a little bit of it. I think it's really unfortunate and very sad how he's been spoken about and how his work has been spoken about. And that is because it's one thing to say that a mural that's several years old is not diverse enough based on Burlington's population. But Vermont's population as a whole is really not diverse. It's not nearly as diverse as Burlington. And the mural encompasses the whole state. It even has people on it that are major figures, including Abraham Lincoln, for instance, that never lived in Vermont. And it has a lot of heroes. It has heroes of the Civil War who fought to free the slaves. And, you know, in reading about one of them, here's a guy who was a farmer and a teacher until he served in the Union Army. And he was wounded so badly in about the third or fourth battle he was in that he had to recuperate for quite a time, returned briefly to Vermont and decided to go back. And he was in several battles more. He was wounded in his other leg very badly, but he continued on. And then he went into some other battles and eventually was wounded so badly in an arm that they had to amputate his arm. And even then, he continued working in not direct battle, but he kept working for the Union Army. And and his name was George Stannard.
If you could possibly wrap up your comments, that would be helpful.
Sure. Well, I'm just trying to point out that it's a very diverse mural in some respects, or at least honors historical figures. And my point is that I think Pierre has taken this very hard. And if I were him, or any other human being, I would think that was talked about as creating a racist mural, which, like Gina, he referred to as his baby. And he put a lot of work and effort into over the course of time. And I think it's unfortunate that people have referred to his work as racist. Some have even referred to him as racist. And recently, I also heard someone refer to him as a white supremacist, perhaps. I can tell you, I never heard anything racist come from that man's mouth. I don't think he is. He was born in Montreal, a real melting pot. And
yeah, Mr. Sinkinson, we try to keep our comments.
Leave you with one thing. I think it would be nice if we could all think about some way to at least recognize him and recognize that because his mural was not diverse, it didn't mean that it was racist. That's all I'm going to say.
Great, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next on my list is Corinne. I'm going to enable your mic now. Corinne, you should be able to talk.
Okay, and before, Corinne, before you start speaking, we don't have a timer when we have committee meetings, but we do appreciate if people try to keep their comments to about 2 minutes.
Okay, I hear that, Karen. I don't have a timer either, but I will be very quick, or as quick as possible.
No problem. Thank you.
I also just thank you everyone for this rich conversation. It felt like it was going in a really good direction, and I do know a lot of you on the call, but for those who don't, I am an artist in Burlington. But I wanted to join in support of Gina. And I know the point I wanted to make is that I know one of the defenses of the current mural was that was the Visual Arts Rights Act, but the same law was not used for Gina's work. And I think it's pretty clear that Gina, and I don't want to speak for her, but having listened to her speak and read articles written about her pieces, I think it's pretty clear that she's faced greater barriers to pursuing her art career than the creator of the Everybody Loves a Parade mural. And also there was obviously an inequity in how the two different artists were compensated. But, you know, I think listening to Gina and yes, I'm wrapping up. I think just allowing her that space would really repair the narrative around the community. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne.
And our final person to speak tonight that has requested to be part of public forum is Tim Heganey. Tim, I am allowing you to speak now. I have enabled your mic.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I'm Tim Heganey. I'm owner of a construction firm called Hollow Contracting. We're down on the south end of Pine Street. And I just wanted to call in today to thank Gina for her work and time to date, and to advocate for her to restore the existing art that's under what we're now seeing, as she suggested and as we've discussed. I also think she would be the best person to paint a new mural there that effectively represents our community in the space. I'm confident that there would be widespread support for that. If that's something that the community needs to voice, I'm sure they would do so if they were given the opportunity. I think that putting out a standard RFP for the work would sort of be like salt in the wound that was left when the original mural that was, was covered with something that I think the community has made pretty clear it doesn't want. I also think that when the time comes that it's decided that, she does repaint a mural if possible, or whoever does that, when it comes to the money that maybe the community itself could organize a fundraiser that could pay for any costs that are above and beyond what the city's willing to contribute, so that she or another artist can be compensated for the work and the time properly. That's pretty much all I wanted to say. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Tim. I think many of the comments that you've made are things that we will certainly be addressing in our next meeting and going forward. So thank you for bringing them up. So Eileen, Attorney Black, I'm sorry, did you want to say, Holly?
Yes, it looks like there is one more person who is raising their hand.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Let me unmute her. Haley, I'm going to unmute you now.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I just wanted to call and also echo the sentiments of Tim, who was just before me, Corinne as well. This seems to me like a very easy way to amend, the fact that Gina wasn't protected in the same law that that Pierre was. And that, if we are going to do something with this space, couldn't we just easily, this is just, to me, it would seem crazy not to go with Gina, because not only is she talented, but that it was her space before and it was taken away from her. I don't have too much to say other than it just seems the obvious choice to me that why wouldn't we go with someone who we know will do a great job already? And that we need this, our city needs this. So yeah, I guess I just wanted to say briefly that I very much so stand behind Gina, and I hope that we make the right decision. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Polly, were there others anyone else?
That's it for hands. If anybody else wishes to speak, would you please raise your hand now? Nope. It looks like we are all set with public forum.
Okay. All right. So unless there's anything that anyone else wants to add, at this point, Attorney Blackwood, you'll be drafting a resolution that you will be getting to the committee. Can you just outline for us so we're the three of us?
Hi, I'm Haley. Nice to meet you, Finn.
Could you just simply outline for us, sorry, how we will go about that? There's three of us, and you would be sending that to us just so that we know, given the fact that we wouldn't be having, unless we, or do we need to have a meeting, or is this something that what's your opinion about that?
Here's what I'd suggest. I would suggest that you all do a motion now. This is what we've done, say, in the Charter Change Committee, and other times when we're somewhat tight for time to try to schedule additional meetings, is if you're comfortable with it, that you pass a motion saying that you request the city attorney to prepare a resolution to the effect that will seek council approval for use of that lays out the various elements. I can go through them with you if you want. That lays out the various elements, and that I will, and that I would then circulate it to you after. I would circulate it to Director Kraft and Director Almazzari and Sarah Katz as well before sending it on to you, and make sure that the staff is all on board with it. But then I would get it to you all I would try to get it to you before the weekend if we can pull that together, so you all have the weekend to look at it and then comment back to us on it. And I think if you just, I think because the resolution, you will have kind of decided the substantive issue. What you're going to be talking about is how procedurally it gets before the council.
Great. Would either Councilor Jang or Councilor Shannon like to make that motion? A simple "so moved" would probably be work here. Go ahead, Councilor Shannon. Did you say so moved?
I did.
Okay. So we have a motion second from Councilor Jang. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. So you have your motion and direction, Attorney Blackwood, and we'll look forward to getting that resolution shortly. Because we, in the interest of time, we'll schedule the next meeting at some point in September, and we'll query you via email, and as well, Ms. Carrera, Mr. Dana, and city staff. We will certainly let you know when that meeting is, and make sure that you're also available. With that, and without any objection from the other two committee members, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:33. Thank you all so very much for joining us. This was an extremely informative meeting about an issue that has been needed to be addressed for some time, and I hope we all feel like we're moving towards a better place. So, and I see Gina shaking her head, and that means a great deal to all of us. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.